Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching the continuous coverage here on WION of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the US. In news that we've been following here on WION, Prime Minister Modi has just left the White House after concluding his two-day visit to the US, and he is on his way to the airport in a bit. But in the meantime, just to recap the news for the viewers who might just be tuning in, Prime Minister Modi has had a one-on-one meeting with President Trump, followed by delegation-level talks. And these are the latest pictures, visuals of coming to you from the White House. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump seeing off Prime Minister Modi after his productive visit to the US. And in the meantime, we are given to understand that the Ministry of External Affairs is briefing the media in Washington, D.C. Let's listen in.
Our scheduled departure is in a few minutes. So after Foreign Secretary's remark, we'll open the questions, open the floor for a few questions. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. As you're all aware, we've just finished the program for the day. It was the last event of a very eventful visit. We had this evening the Prime Minister received at the White House by President Trump and Mrs. Trump. There was a 40-minute one-on-one meeting between the Prime Minister and the President. This was followed by delegation-level talks, which was roughly about an hour. Then there were remarks to the press, which some of you had come for. The First Lady was gracious enough to host a reception thereafter. Before the reception, the Prime Minister also had a brief meeting with the Vice President in his office. And then the President and the First Lady were in what clearly was a great gesture, took the Prime Minister for a tour of the White House, including the residential quarters. And finally, the last event was the dinner, which was hosted by the President and First Lady, and there was a lot of conversation over dinner, including on policy issues. And this was also roughly perhaps a little bit more than an hour. Now, in terms of my description of the atmosphere, the chemistry, in a sense, I think it was probably the fairest words to use are that it was very warm. It was a very open, very cordial. There was a sort of there was a great deal of ease between the President and the Prime Minister. They had, as you would recall, 3 phone calls before the Prime Minister came to US. This was the first time they were actually meeting, but they were really very, very comfortable with each other. In terms of the discussion, a lot of the discussions were on very strategic issues, and took in that sense, a strategic perspective on the relationship, on how the leaders saw the world. It was also very detailed, it was very extensive, and it was very focused on certain themes that I would describe to you. The Prime Minister clearly saw the President as a force of change, and there was some exchanges between them on their political perspectives. Now, in terms of the policy discussion, I think the overarching theme, if you would, was how India and US were mutually supportive of each other in a changing world. Now, this had many facets to it. The most obvious, of course, was the strategic convergence between India and the United States. So there were discussions on defense and security issues, discussions on connectivity. A number of, I would say, issues and regions came up for very detailed discussions and exchanges, including counterterrorism, Afghanistan, the Indian Ocean region, the Middle East a little bit, East Asia, and issues like the NSG and the UNSC. The economic side, the economic facet was the second facet. I think what we saw was that as a result of the innovation and the increased, enhanced growth that we expect from the Trump administration, clearly the U.S. will be the premier engine for growth in the global economy. There was also recognition that India today was a very major engine of growth, and appreciation of the structural reforms that the Prime Minister has undertaken and seen through, as well as the fact that he's made it easier to do business in India. Some talk on the tech side, on innovation, entrepreneurship, and in fact specifically on the digital partnership between India and the United States. There was the third focus, of course, was on values and the world that India and the US both wanted to see. And here terrorism was identified as a key challenge to which the two countries would be responding, both separately and together, and with other nations. And I will sort of give you a little bit more detail on that. The fourth issue was the people-to-people relationship, the fact that we have such a strong community here, such an effective bridge between our two countries, what a unique bonding there's been. And both leaders made references to their exposure to each other's society. President Trump referred to the fact that he had visited India as a private citizen. Prime Minister also spoke of his early visits before he became Prime Minister to the United States. So this was sort of the broad, I would say, the themes and formats and facets of the relationship. And again, I sort of stressed to you, I mean, there was very visible chemistry between the two leaders, and you could see that they were talking with each other very, very comfortably. Now, before the Prime Minister went to the White House this morning, he received Defense Secretary Mattis and Secretary of State Tillerson. And at the White House itself, the discussions were joined by a number of other cabinet members and senior administration officials. They included, of course, the Vice President, in addition to Secretaries Tillerson and Mattis, the Energy Secretary, the Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, Energy Secretary Rick Perry, USTR Lighthizer, NSA General McMaster, who are my cabinet level, Mr. Gary Cohn, and Mr. Jared Kushner, and Dina Powell. Is that yes, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. So it was, as you can see, really the sort of all the senior figures of the administration were there. Most of them for the discussion, and some of them joined at when the dinner started. Now, as I said, one very major issue which was discussed was how India and the US would counter the threat of terrorism. I think we've tried to capture the sort of essence of that discussion through a joint statement. I believe it has just been cleared. Would that be correct? Yeah. So I think once I'm through with this, most of you would be able to read it. But let me just sort of give you the key details of that. I think there was a recognition today that terrorism is a global scourge, and that it must be fought in every part of the world, and that the US and India would do this together. Earlier this morning, again, I think most of you know that the State Department did the designation of Saeed Salahuddin of the Hizbul Mujahideen as a specially designated global terrorist. So I think that was a strong signal coming out of the administration that it was committed to ending terror in all forms. It was agreed that we would have a new consultation mechanism on domestic and international terrorist designations listing proposals. There was an extensive discussion on terrorism, what is its epicenter, how is it affecting the region, particularly the region where India is located. I think I would highlight to you that the two leaders called on Pakistan to ensure that its territory is not used to launch terrorist attacks on other countries. They further called on Pakistan to expeditiously bring to justice the perpetrators of the 26/11 Mumbai, Pathankot, and other cross-border terrorist attacks perpetrated by Pakistan-based groups. In addition to this, the leaders also agreed to expand intelligence sharing and operational level counterterrorism cooperation. Now, moving on from counterterrorism to larger defense and security, this was really an occasion for us to send a message that India was a reliable, dependable partner that was fully reciprocated on the American side. And there were discussions on the Indian Ocean, on issues of from Africa to Australia, the range of security challenges that arise, also in the Middle East, specifically in the context of security, and much closer home, a lot of discussions on Afghanistan particularly, and as I think many of you are aware, there's a policy review which has just taken place out here, so some of that came up for discussion. On defense cooperation, there was a sense that the combination of convergence on and regular exchanges on policy, the fact that we were today major partners in exercises with each other, and that we were today had common equipment, that India had in its inventory a number of platforms of American origin. All of these really underline the fact today that India and US saw each other as major defense partners. On Afghanistan, which I mentioned, I think we brought out India's commitment, the fact that last year we had made a further commitment, how that is today shaping up. Prime Minister also expressed our appreciation of the sacrifices that America has made to strengthen democracy, pluralism in Afghanistan. On the Indian Ocean, as I said, the emphasis was on the importance of the rule of law, on the requirement to follow international norms and ensure freedom of navigation. You will also see in the joint statement a common position that the two countries have on the issue of connectivity that underlines the transparent development of infrastructure, utilizing responsible debt financing practices while ensuring respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, rule of law, and the environment. On the economic side, most of the economic discussions were at the delegation level talks and some over dinner. I would sort of sum up a very sort of productive discussion as a sort of an assessment that the economic changes in both countries are creating new demands, and once you have this high level of comfort between India and the United States, the other partner is well placed to meet those demands. It is in fact the natural partner to whom you turn to for such demands. And then some of the examples which came up was, I think many of you know that the civil aviation sector in India is today probably the fastest growing civil aviation in a major economy. And you have therefore, I believe that the number of domestic travelers has crossed 100 million in India. Now, you have obviously a demand for new aircraft from a number of airlines, and so it's quite natural that these orders, many of them would be placed on the United States. And I think you also heard some appreciation from the President himself of the fact that these orders were coming to American companies. A second example would be in the field of natural gas. The fact that from next year, the LNG from US would start flowing to India. In fact, we expect over the next many years that this would be in excess of $40 billion. We could, a number of other examples were discussed. I would say there was a sense today that, both countries should encourage in each other that effort to be the natural, to be the preferred partner when it comes to economic issues. As you would expect on such an occasion, there was discussion on trade matters. Some of it was very broad about market access, about regulatory issues, about barriers. I think both leaders underlined the emphasis of free and fair trade. There was some details as well which came up, but overall it was a very, I would say, a very useful and a discussion which really led the other party to believe that their issues were being looked at seriously. We also had issues which US was looking at seriously, and the other way around. I should again add that before the visit, actually we had discussions both with Commerce Secretary Ross and with USTR, US Trade Representative Ambassador Lighthizer. Now, moving on from the economic side, I would highlight the energy basket discussions, as I said, on LNG and gas, on solar, the leading role of the United States as a innovator on the solar side, on clean coal. The fact today that there was a lot of interest. The US has a very impressive clean coal capabilities that we felt we could work on, as well as on nuclear. You will find most of that again reflected in the joint statement. And our expectation is that Westinghouse, we were told that by the end of the year, Westinghouse would really rework its current situation and really be back in business. On the innovation side, I think there was discussion on the digital partnership. The Prime Minister believes that just as democracy was the great contribution, the great political contribution of the United States last century, the innovation is the major contribution of the US in the contemporary times. So how to improve the enabling environment, and some discussion on the exchanges that take place. Here I would draw your attention to the fact that the Prime Minister yesterday hosted had a meeting with a number of CEOs. So 20 major CEOs met him, many of whom were associated with the digital world. I mean, today, frankly, everybody in some form, even the manufacturing people, are associated. And you had, for example, Tim Cook of Apple really saying that Apple today was hosting what he said, 100,000 apps which had come out of India. So that the importance of that digital partnership, I think, was one issue which came up. So I think this remarks, I don't know if I missed out anything major, but this should broadly give you a sense of what were the themes of the discussion, what was the flavor of the discussion, again, as I said, it was a very comfortable discussion, very freewheeling, very between two leaders and cabinet members. Everybody spoke their mind very candidly, and it was really, I would say, frankly, one of the most productive visits that I've seen in the United States. I said that at the start. Do you want to add something more?
No. I think Foreign Secretary summed it up. I really just wanted to say that, I mean, having sort of been involved in the working of the program from day to day, I just wanted to underline that the White House really took a lot of care to craft a very special program for the day. And I think, as Foreign Secretary mentioned, there was a dinner, and the first dinner, and there was a tour, and also the fact that the First Lady hosted a sort of pre-dinner reception and was present for large parts of the day, and so were the other family members, as some of you saw them. And so I think that the fact that they really wanted to go out of their way to enable the right atmosphere for the discussions was very obvious.
Thank you very much, Foreign Secretary, and thank you very much, Ambassador. We have precisely 5 minutes now, so I will open the floor for maybe 4 or 5 questions. And please be brief. We'll take all the questions together, and then I'll request Foreign Secretary to answer. Those who did not ask in the morning session will be given preference. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry.
Lalit
Yeah, Lalit from PTI. So, did you see any commitment from the US side to act or take tough action against Pakistan, because there is no doubt about the safe havens existing there? And also, did the UP elections change the dates? Was he planning to come earlier, while the invitation was for the earlier dates?
Okay. You ask me? First row here.
Hi sir, I am Ashok from ANI. Is there any confirmation regarding the invitation of Prime Minister to come India? And is there
Invitation?
yeah? And is there any specific occasion in India?
Yeah, Peach.
Thank you very much, Raghubir Goyal. I'm with India Global Asia today. Mr. Secretary, you have covered many Prime Ministers. My question is, sir, as far as our Indian American community is concerned, their issue is H-1B visa, and Prime Minister is very famous in America because of our community. Thank you, sir.
First row here. First row.
So, adding to what Lalit has just asked, I want to understand, sir, even though you say that both the leaders called on Pakistan to stop terror there, but the very fact that the statement that was read out by President Trump did not mention cross-border terrorism, hence my question, sir, that do you think India has been able to achieve what it was seeking to achieve when it comes to countering terrorism and isolating Pakistan?
Thanks. That was times now.
Parikshit.
Sir, you mentioned that both countries called on Pakistan to end terrorism. Over the years, there has been a feeling that there is a need to cut military aid to Pakistan further. Did you see Donald Trump expressing anger with Pakistan for not reining in terror groups? And do you get a sense that military aid to Pakistan would be cut further? And if I could pack in one small question about Srinivas Kuchibhotla, did the issue of racial attacks against Indians, even though it might be an aberration, it might be one-off incident, did the security of Indians abroad come up in the discussions?
Okay, so for the moment, I would request Foreign Secretary to answer these questions. If we have at all any space or time, we'll try.
Maybe take one or two, then I can yeah. Where is the mic?
Right there.
Where is the mic?
Their mics both sides.
Yeah, sure.
Yusuf, Peach.
Yeah, okay.
Namrata.
Hi, sir. On the designation of Syed Salahuddin today, and the fact that a statement, a phrase was used that the Indian Valley is being turned into a graveyard for Indian forces. The Kashmir Valley is being turned into a graveyard for Indian forces. Did that context come up?
Who used that phrase?
The State Department.
State Department. Press
The U.S. State Department press release.
By Syed Salahuddin.
Okay.
They quoted Syed Salahuddin.
So is that indicative of the fact that the United States is now giving moral authority to India and India's fight in Kashmir Valley? And what is the sense and understanding? Did this come up in the...
Last question here. First.
सर I'm दीपक चौरसिया फ्रॉम इंडिया न्यूज़. मेरा बड़ा छोटा सा सवाल है कि पाकिस्तान वाले इशू को लेके कल पीएम ने कहा था कि सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक हमने करी है और किसी भी कंट्री ने उसको लेकर रिएक्ट नहीं किया. क्या उस सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक के बारे में किसी भी तरह का मेंशन या कोई डिस्कशन हुआ?
What I'll do, I will sort of cluster the questions because there are a lot of Pakistan-related questions, and then maybe come to the invitation, the community-related questions thereafter. And small, what Lalit asked about the dates of the visit. First of all, dates of the visit were a very straightforward affair. As you know, the Prime Minister was busy with the elections in India, so the question of planning before March did not arise, and then we had to find what was a common calendar. So there was, it happened on June 26th. If it was convenient, it could have happened a week before or a week later. I think there was nothing other than convenience in that case. So let me now come to the Pakistan issue. I think what is the key the key sentence, and I do realize that you have the disadvantage of not seeing the joint statement because it just came out. It's not entirely our fault. The sentences, the two sentences, they called on Pakistan to ensure that its territory is not used to launch terrorist attacks on other countries. Now that's a pretty clear cross-border reference to me. But just in case you want cross-border explicitly, the next sentence gives you that. It says, they further called on Pakistan to expeditiously bring to justice the perpetrators of the 26/11 Mumbai, Pathankot and other cross-border terrorist attacks perpetrated by Pakistan-based groups. So I think you can't get it clearer than that. The other issue which I want to bring up was in terms of military assistance to Pakistan. Look, there was a broad discussion on Pakistan. It was broad, it was also extensive. On certain issues it was very detailed. Now exactly what action the US would take consequent to that discussion, that is for the administration to indicate. So it is not something which, they're going to tell us that, well, tomorrow morning we are going to do that a bit. But what we had was very much, a converging viewpoint of what is the problem, let's diagnose the problem. And it's not just an India situation. I think a lot of the discussions also related to what was happening in the case of Afghanistan. And in fact, there are a number of other countries who have also raised this issue, saying that their terrorism concerns also emanate from the same source. So what the US does as a follow-up to this conversation, I think that's really in fairness for the American official at some point of time to answer. In terms of the Syed Salahuddin designation, I think you should take the step for what it is. It is, in a sense, fixing responsibility, highlighting a problem. You please read it along with the fact that I'm giving you a sense of what the discussions were. So there is a context to it, there is a signaling out of it. It is focusing on a particular group and a particular individual, and you all know, the sort of details of all of that. So I think none of us can really miss that message. The issue of the surgical strike did not explicitly come up. And on the the H1B issue, there was a lot of discussion on both yesterday with the business as well as today with the administration, including at the levels of the leaders, about the digital partnership. And I think when the joint statement will come out, you will see references in that to the importance both of the digital partnership, and somebody else asked that question, of the importance of the Indian-American community. So I think people do recognize that the Indian-American community has played an extraordinary role as a bridge in building this relationship. And so I think when you value something, it's very obvious that you would take care of what you value. The last issue, invitation to President Trump to visit India. Yes, the Prime Minister extended a visit, both when he was, I think, speaking at the Rose Garden, but also at the end of his discussions. The President accepted it, but again, I don't have a specific time.
Thank you very much, sir. I think with that we have to rush to. No, what I would suggest is that we are obviously leaving behind the ambassador over here, and also perhaps the Joint Secretary Americas. So you would be. I bank on their generosity to answer any questions that you might have once the Prime Minister and his delegation have departed.
I'm in serious danger of missing my plane. You don't want
so
that.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Prateek and your team.
Thank you, sir. You know, there was a sort of a discussion on energy mix, you know, on economic growth, energy mix, that whole balancing growth, environment, etc. That issue did come up, and again, when the joint statement comes, you will see how we have captured that. I mean, the joint statement, I should say, is a very accurate capturing of what actually happened.
Thank you. Thank you.